Thank you for staying with KTN Prime. Let's now turn our focus to the Middle East, where Israel launched its air war on Friday with a surprise attack that killed nearly the entire top echelon of Iran's military commanders and its leading nuclear scientists. We want to get answers from the Israeli ambassador to Kenya, Michael Lottem, on the situation. Good evening, Ambassador, and thank you so much for making time. All right, let's get straight to it. How does the Israel government justify a preemptive strike cause? In some quarters, as I'd mentioned earlier, Israel launched an unprovoked assault on Iran.
Well, the provocation has been going for 30, almost 40 years since Iran launched the nuclear program. A program that aims at extermination of Israel and has a few components. Has the nuclear devices, has the rockets, and terror. Now, nuclear, by now, Iran has got to enough enriched uranium to build 9 nuclear bombs, accumulated, stockpiled almost 20,000 rockets. We saw the launching of the rockets in the last few days on Israel. We're talking about 1.5 tons each rocket. Some of them reach Israel, 2,000 kilometers. Other rockets have the range of 4,000 kilometers. So maybe people in Europe should also be worried about it. And the third component, of course, is terror. We've been seeing it through the years, from the bombing of the Israeli embassy in Argentina in 1992, but recently with the Houthis, the supply of arms to the Houthis, and you know the Houthis, Al-Shabaab, if we want to discuss what's happening in East Africa, Hamas, and Hezbollah, of course, in Lebanon. So they were using a toolbox, a very deadly toolbox. And we had to mitigate this immediate existential risk.
Okay, Ambassador, but if I'm not wrong, Iran did sign a treaty, the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty that it ratified in the 1970s. So what are you trying to say?
They are cheating. And it's not what I say, it's what the International Atomic Agency said just a couple of weeks ago, that Iran, and that's after many years that the IAEA really tried to be nice and to get the cooperation of Iran. So eventually, a couple of weeks ago in Vienna, they made the statement, not Israel, the Atomic Agency, that Iran is not cooperating. Iran is in a state of non-compliance with its commitments. And again, it's not about Israel and Iran, it's about the international members of the board of the IAEA.
So what are you're trying to say, that this is for the good of the world?
Oh, very much so. Thank you very much for saying it exactly this.
So then, are you still going for the Ayatollah, especially since the US President Donald Trump said not to kill Iran's supreme leader, that is Ali?
Our aim, and it was clearly stated, is the nuclear program. So we took down Natanz, most of Natanz, which is an enrichment site, a big enrichment site. We took down Isfahan, which converts the gas back to solid, which is a critical component in arming in a nuclear device. We took down almost half of the UAVs that they launch, many of the launchers, and as you said right in the beginning, the Chief of Staff, most of the intelligence command, most of the Air Force command. So we are aiming at military targets.
What's your end game?
And since we have, complete control over the sky of Iran, as you see, we didn't choose anything else. We aim there.
Okay. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said the conflict may result in regime change. Is that what Israel is hoping to achieve as the end game?
Everybody hopes for good things.
But you're killing thousands.
No. How did you come with...
it's at the cost of lives. Lives are being lost.
Let's try to stick to fact.
Okay.
Why killing thousands, even by Iranian reports, right? And this includes the military, the top military echelon. And some of the sites we announce before we attack. And if you will see, if you can, it's easily It's easy to find the air pictures where we took some of the people down in their apartments. And this is completely opposite to what has been happening in Israel, where Iran is launching missiles, these rockets, into the cities.
Okay,
they are not trying to target any military. They don't even claim that they try to target. And even this morning, the foreign minister of Iran said that we will fight until the last drop of blood, and we will make Israel pay, and they will suffer, the civilians will suffer in Israel.
Okay, but Ambassador, Iran is not here, there's no representative, and that's why we're talking from this perspective, from the Israel perspective. I mean, you've talked about the fact that you announce before you attack. Does that justify the attack?
No, the justification, as I said, it's an existential threat to Israel, and we are doing it in the very last minute. You know, I remember discussions and negotiations with Iran going on from the late 90s when they built the Bushehr nuclear reactor. I remember the critical dialogue that Europe had with them. We all remember, maybe not all of us, but so I will remind, 2015, when the Mossad brought 100,000, a pile of 100,000 documents indicating the concealment program of Iran of nuclear arms. Following this, the international community, the IAEA, opened new files to investigate the very specific sites. Not even a single site, now people mention Fordow, another critical site. Not even one was brought to the open by Iran. So yes, sometimes you have to take a preemptive strike in order to mitigate an immediate existential risk, obviously.
Okay, so it's day 4 and counting. How are we likely to see the situation escalate, and for how long is Israel going to maintain this?
We have objectives, military objectives, and I hope that we will get to...
Do you mind sharing the objectives?
Well, I didn't, as you can imagine, I was not behind the planning of the operation in Iran, but things are progressing quite well. As Prime Minister Netanyahu said just a couple of hours ago, many of the launchers were destroyed, half of the UAVs were destroyed. These UAVs, the same UAVs that attacked Saudi Arabia, Aramco, the same UAVs that get to the Houthis and from there to this part of the world. So we are working on eliminating these capabilities.
Okay, a viewer has just texted and they're asking, why is there a need to dismantle Iran's nuclear program?
Well, I'll tell you what I asked one of the journalists in the morning.
Okay.
What would happen if a citizen, any citizen, in whatever country you choose to name, will call to the extermination, to the annihilation of this specific country? What do you think the government, the authorities will do? Give me a guess.
Retaliate.
And here we are not talking about one citizen, armless. We are talking about 80 million. Yeah, Iran is 80 million people. Not all of them. These the mullahs and the Iranian Revolutionary Guard. Israel had wonderful relations with Iran up to 1979. We were really good strategic partners. So when you couple these rhetorics with capabilities, we don't ignore it. We thought that the Hamas, before October the 7th, 2023, it's only about rhetorics, and we pay the price. I can go back, 80, 90 years back,
Please
when Europeans thought that another leader, so-called leader, that called for the extermination of other people, it's only rhetorics. I'm referring to Hitler, of course. They thought, let's negotiate with him. Now remember, the international community has been negotiating with Iran for 30 years.
Okay.
And President Trump gave them 60 days to come to an agreement. They knew that President Trump is serious and really wants to come to an agreement. And still, we're fooling around everybody.
Okay. So, Ambassador, is there a ceasefire in the offing? Is Israel open to a ceasefire?
It's not a matter of a ceasefire. The question was Iran's nuclear program, Iran's program of annihilating Israel. We talk about the irrelevant thing. It's not the ceasefire. The issue is the nuclear program and the denuclearization of Iran. Once this comes to the open and the IEA inspectors will be able to go in to inspect exactly what they were not allowed to do in the last 10 years, then it's another ballgame.
All right. I guess it's a situation that we just have to wait and see. Thank you so much, Ambassador. That is Israel Ambassador to Kenya, Michael Lotem. We take another break. Up next is some business news.